guys, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to pop on real quick before we hop into the recipe and say welcome back and thank you so much for tuning in. As you already know, I have a beef stew recipe for you guys tonight, and honestly this should just become like a stew and soup channel because obviously I love soup and we are deep into soup season, so what a better way to dive into soup season than a nice hearty bowl of beef stew. I already have the pot right behind me. It is done, but I just wanted to just jump on and say hello really quick and just thank you guys so much for all of your support. I've already laid out all of the ingredients that we're going to need to make our delicious beef stew today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you all of the ingredients, and as we go along with the recipe, I'll give you, the steps and exactly how much I'm using. But here we go. We're going to jump right in. We're going to need some beef broth. And of course we need our beef. This is 2 pounds of beef stew meat. And we're going to use some carrots. Use as many as you want, but this right here is about equal to maybe 4 to 5 carrots and 4 stalks of celery. I went ahead and just chopped those up. I'm going to be using this for our garlic today. I don't have any fresh, but this works absolutely fine. And honestly, I prefer to use it because it's a little bit easier instead of chopping up our garlic. I am also using 1 medium onion. We're going to need some tomato paste. I like to buy it like this in this tube. It's so much easier, and I feel like you don't waste it because sometimes when you buy the tomato paste in the can, you really only need a small amount, and then you end up wasting all the extra. We're going to use about 3 tablespoons of flour right here. I also have some mushrooms, which is optional, but we like mushrooms in our beef stew. I have 1 sprig of rosemary. That's also optional, but it's going to add a nice addition of flavor. I have 4 medium-sized potatoes cubed up. We're also going to be using some frozen peas. I'm going to use about half of this bag. And this is also optional, but I like to add in red wine when I am making any type of beef stew or beef soup of any kind. This is Merlot, and it just adds a nice layer of flavor as well. And then I wanted to just point out, I have already seasoned our beef with the Kinder's Table Blend. It's just salt, pepper, and garlic. So you don't have to use this in particular. You can just use salt, pepper, and garlic, and that'll be just fine. So these are all of our ingredients, and now just jump right into our hearty beef stew recipe. Okay, so to start off, I have some oil in my pot heating up, and the reason why is because we need to actually sear our beef quick before we put it in there. So what we're going to do is, like I said, I already have my beef seasoned. We need to add this flour in to get our beef coated. This is just 3 tablespoons of flour. Take my hands and just kind of move the beef around and get it coated in this flour. But I was saying the reason why we want to go ahead and sear off our beef is because we're going to get it brown, but this is going to seal in some of that flavor. And I promise you, when you're talking about a hearty beef stew, if you give it a nice browning first, it just builds more of a bold beefy flavor, and it's absolutely delicious. So once we have our flour coated, and that's looking pretty good, we're going to start adding this into our pot. So let's get over here to our pot, and be careful because your oil is hot, and just start getting your beef in to your pot, and we're going to brown this off just for a few minutes. So while my beef is browning, I'm going to go ahead and add in my onions. Like I said, this is 1 medium onion. We're going to go ahead and add that in so it can kind of brown and caramelize along with the meat. Like I said, everything is building flavor into this beef stew. And just the onions and the beef alone, oh my God, it smells so good. Okay, so I'm gonna let this go just a few more minutes. We're not trying to cook our beef all the way, we're just getting it brown. So just a few more minutes, and we're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients. Okay, so let me turn this down just a bit, but I've already added in my garlic that I showed you. I had the garlic paste, which equaled about two tablespoons. I'm sorry, 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to add in just a little bit of my tomato paste. Well, whatever I have left. But you want to do about 3 tablespoons worth of tomato paste. If I can get it. We might be a little short on that, but that's okay. It's all right. We got enough flavor in here anyway, so. Okay, so what we also want to do is start adding in the remainders of our vegetables. We're going to do our carrots and our celery. And give that a good toss. You kind of get everything coated. And you can see it's starting to thicken up just a little bit. If you can see the bottom, that's from our flour. And we want that so that our beef stew has a bit of a thickness to it. And then I'm also going to put my potatoes as well as my mushrooms in. And at this point, we're just kind of throwing everything that's left in the pot, with the exception of our peas. All right, so now we're going to add in our liquids. This is 1 cup of the Merlot. And like I said, this is optional, but red wine pairs together really nicely with any type of beef dish. And then we're going to add in all of our beef broth. I'm using a low sodium. Just use whatever you have, is fine. So what we want to do is we want to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for about an hour. So get everything stirred together nicely, and it just has that deep color. That's just from the wine, but it's okay as it cooks. That'll deepen just a little bit more. So the reason why I'm adding my peas at the very end is because they are frozen. They're already done. You know, there's no real reason to let those cook too long. We don't want them to get too mushy. But this is looking and smelling really good. What I have now is a sprig of rosemary. If you have dried rosemary, you can even add your Italian seasoning. It's fine. I'm just going to add 1 sprig of rosemary. Just kind of push that down. And that's going to give it a nice herby flavor as well. So like I said, we're going to bring this up to a boil. And once it comes up to a boil, we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for about an hour. All right, guys. So our beef stew has been going for about an hour now. And if you could just look into that. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. So what we're going to do now is I want to add in my peas. I have about 1 cup of peas. We're going to add this in and give it a good stir. And I want to mention 2 things at this point. So once you get to this point with your beef stew, oh my gosh, I love how pretty the peas, to add that extra pop of color in. But at this point, you want to scoop some of your beef stew out and give it a taste, because at this point you want to adjust your seasonings if needed. Add a little bit more salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder if you need to. You can even add in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. That would be great also. And then I also want to mention this. So if you want to thicken up your beef stew a little bit, like I feel like mine's can be a little bit thicker. So you can make yourself what's called a slurry. So in this bowl is 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. You want to put it in a bowl or whatever and mix it up really good. Get all of the lumps out. And then you're just going to pour that into your beef stew. And what this is going to do is going to act as a thickening agent. We already have some thickeners in it, like we have our potatoes and we had the flour from our beef when we browned it off. But this is going to help just to thicken it up just a bit more for you, so you have that nice, thick, hearty beef stew. And I would start off with no more than 2 tablespoons at a time. Let it cook a little bit longer, see how well it thickened. If you need to add a little bit more, do it. Or don't add any more. But I think 2 tablespoons is going to be enough for our size pot of stew. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this cook for about another half an hour, and then we're going to get our bowl out and go ahead and just sum up. So guys, here is our beef stew, and it is nice and hearty and full of flavor. I already tried it. It's so delicious. The beef is tender. Oh my goodness. So I hope that you guys give this recipe a try. you know, let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and get some into our bowl. Already ready. And if you guys give it a try, you know I love to hear from you. Definitely come back into the comment section and let me know. And until the next recipe, I will see you guys and stay safe.